Oh, perfect. My sound is good.
Oh, good. So I'll share your room.
Thank you.
Although two women in a room talking about men's sexual health, how's that going to go down?
Oh no, we have a doctor. We have an MD.
Okay.
We have
Oh,
Dr.
thank
Kumar.
God for that.
This is I only work with doctors and longevity researchers. I don't like, and I used to work for a compounding pharmacy. So there he is. There's Dr. Kumar.
Oh, great. Wonderful.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Kumar. How are
Good, Tonya. How
you?
you doing?
Fantastic. I have my good friend Anna here from New Zealand. She's visiting us.
Awesome. New Zealand.
Yeah. Hi.
So how's
So
how's everybody doing?
I'm doing so much better compared to last week.
I'm glad to hear that. Well, you let me know whenever you guys are ready. I'm ready to rock and roll.
We are ready. I'm going to go ahead and share the promo video onto their space so people know what we're talking about
Yeah.
today. And the reason we're doing this topic is because we did another space that was recorded on YouTube, and that literally has like over 2,000 views on it, and it's a really important info. And I think that Dr. Kumar is the #1 doctor to talk about it because it's part of his practice.
Yep. And I have enough experience to really dive deep into this and let people know things that most people are not aware of. So that's what we're going to be highlighting.
The mic is yours, Dr. Kumar.
All right.
And
Awesome.
this is episode 14, by the way.
Okay. Yeah. Can you imagine? We started this at the beginning of the year, and but anyway, welcome everybody for our 14th episode of Short Health Spaces. So today's topic is something that I encounter day in and day out in my practice, and the question is, folks come in and say, oh, I'm talking about men. I've been using Viagra and Cialis for a while, and the doctor increased the dose, but now I find out it's not working. So it worked for a little while, maybe for a year or two. So now what? So they come to me already having a treatment plan in mind. And since I'm a GainsWave provider, for those folks who do not know what GainsWave is, it's using low intensity sound technology to help men with erectile dysfunction. And there's tons of information online. GainsWave is the name, GAINSWAVE. So before we jump into GainsWave, my first inclination is to have an evaluation. Why did Viagra and Cialis stop working? And that's a big question. So we're going to kind of break this down. So Viagra and Cialis, for it to work, you need to have the whole system in place, which means what? We need to have a brain area that's functioning, and we'll talk about that in a second. We need the pituitary hormone to function, all the pituitary gland functioning. We need to have good testicular function. We need to have intact nerve supply, intact blood supply to in the pelvic area, and we need that whole mechanism to work right, which means the blood has to flow in, it has to stay in for a while, and then it has to come back, right? So this is not a simple problem. I mean, this is composed of so many different moving parts that all have to come together for optimal function. So let's start from the top. So what's the first thing that I ask my patients? Medications. Did your doctor put you on something new? So we already did a Twitter talk exclusively devoted to medications that cause erectile dysfunction. So I would urge people to go and take a look at it. We dive deep into it. So what's the most common medication that causes erectile dysfunction? Blood pressure medications, beta blockers. Now there are some beta blockers that we that do not cause erectile dysfunction, but this is something that I tell my patients: bring your medications with you, so that way we can go through step by step and see if any of the newer medications that you've been placed on is interfering with your sexual function. So beta blockers is one. Then water pills. There's some water pills, thiazide products that can cause erectile dysfunction. The one other thing that most people kind of miss the boat on is mental health medications. SSRIs very commonly prescribed, and a lot of them do have a direct or an indirect effect on sexual function. So this is the first thing that we need to evaluate. Without that, I mean, you can do anything you want with Gainswave or any other procedure, but it ain't going to work, because you're blocking that intricate mechanism from functioning optimally. So that's the first thing that we need to evaluate. The second thing is, a change in shift, which means, people have been waking up at night and working, or working at night and sleeping during the day. That alteration in circadian rhythm will throw off testosterone production in the brain. So sleep is one of the biggest issues that we see that will contribute, if not completely or at least partially, to erectile dysfunction. So that is something that we need to stabilize. Number three, addiction issues. Most common is cigarette smoking. So why cigarette smoking? Because it causes spasms, it causes blood vessel dysfunction, it causes plaque buildup, not only in the heart but in the penile area too. So that's one of the biggest issues that we need to dig into. And so we got to fix all these things. You can't just jump in and do some Gainsway procedure and expect to get results if you have not worked through and solved each one of these issues that I'm talking about. So what else? Anything that has happened to the pituitary gland, whether it's surgery on the pituitary gland, which is located in the base of the brain, um, or it could be, trauma, any of those things that interferes with the function of the pituitary gland. The most common thing that we see is actually in older folks. The older we get, the less production of hormones there is on the pituitary. So that can contribute to less production of testosterone. So that's how the pituitary comes into play. Or if patients have had radiation to the brain for whatever reason, or to the pituitary gland for whatever reason, that can lower the production of the two hormones, which is LH and FSH, that can interfere with testosterone production. So that's at the level of the brain area and the pituitary gland. So let's go down to other common issues. Obesity. Now, obesity has multiple effects on sexual function. Number one, insulin resistance. Okay, so which means what? Either full-blown diabetes or pre-diabetes. How does that affect sexual function? Again, it's a vascular issue. What happens to the blood vessels in the heart has the same effect on the penile blood vessels too, which is blockage. So obesity also contributes to increased or reduction of testosterone production. So weight loss is one of the things that we really need to focus on before we jump in and spend thousands of dollars on all these procedures that may not be necessary. So we got to control weight. There are several ways of doing it. One of the most common things that I kind of works for me is intermittent fasting. And we can do a whole episode on intermittent fasting. And there's what's called a longevity diet, also called the Prolon diet, that people can look into. That needs about 5 days of going on a diet, and 25 days you're free to eat as you please. And it has done real wonders for a bunch of my patients. And so once you regulate the obesity problem or reduce the obesity problem, you're automatically having a direct positive effect on sexual function. So what else? Very common to see patients who come in post pelvic surgery. So whether they've had prostate cancer or any kind of surgical procedure in the pelvic area, can have an impact, because of the effect of surgery on the nerves leading to the penis, as well as blood flow to the penile area. So that is one of the things that we really need to kind of keep in mind before we jump in and do anything else. So pelvic rehab is kind of critical, whether it's post prostatectomy or post any other surgical procedure in men. What else? So anything that relates to the risk of cardiac disease, which means what? Diabetes, hypertension, the fact that they have had coronary artery disease is a strong indicator of similar things happening in the blood, in the penile blood vessels too. So history of cardiac disease, history of stent placement, bypass surgery, all that is a dead giveaway of saying the same thing that happened in the heart is happening in the penile blood vessels too. So these are several moving parts that we need to address before we jump in and say, yeah, you know what, just keep increasing Viagra and Cialis. Ain't going to work. Unless you've done a deep dive, a kind of a thorough medical evaluation before kind of prescribing it. So my approach is um, to kind of take a history, and I look at the face sheet, and I'm looking at the medications automatically. I know what caused it. I had a guy who came in the other day, 40 years old, with erectile dysfunction of recent onset, coincided with SSRIs. I mean, come on. How often do we expect low testosterone level in a 40-year-old? Again, can happen, but not that common. And otherwise, the guy works out. But the big factor there is SSRIs. So my advice to him was to go back to psychiatrists who prescribe the SSRIs, go find out some alternatives, whatever that needs to be done, that will still help his mental health issue, but also can help erectile function. And if that works, then we are done. We don't need to all spend a few $1,000s on any of those other procedures. So those are the things that I deal with on a daily basis. So my goal is to take a history, and checking the testosterone level is the second thing that I do. Because that will give me a sum total of whatever was causing that erectile function. So I call testosterone as the engine oil for the Ferrari, right? So if your engine oil is not there in your Ferrari, the Ferrari ain't getting out of the garage. It's not getting on the roadway. So you need to make sure that we have adequate testosterone levels. And again, we try to find out what the underlying cause for the low testosterone level is. But again, age itself is a factor for low testosterone levels. Trauma to the testicular area for whatever reason, that can result in low testosterone levels. Again, we talked about medications, addiction, all these other factors that can cause low testosterone levels. So my goal is to see if we can correct the underlying issue. If not, at least talk to patients about putting them on testosterone. And the preferred method that I use is a cream. So we get into this discussion between injections, testosterone cream, and testosterone pellets. My take is the easiest thing that we can do is by applying a cream, twice a day. And again, I use a compounded version, which is the natural testosterone, which means a native molecule of testosterone without esterification. Because when you look at whether it's pellets or injectables, testosterone as a native molecule cannot be patented. So a pharmaceutical company, to patent a product like testosterone, they have to add something unique to it. So you end up creating complex molecules. So testosterone enanthate, one of those esters that are added to testosterone. So that way it becomes patentable. So my take is, why add something that is not necessary for functioning? We need testosterone the way God made it. So my recommendation is plain old simple testosterone molecule in a compounded version applied to the skin. It's easy to monitor, you get a steady state, and it's easy to adjust the dose. Simple. And my goal is to maintain the testosterone level above the 25 percentile of the range that is given to us by the lab companies. So again, you monitor it and make sure that your hematocrit doesn't go over 51, 52. So, and the moment we get good response with that testosterone level, now you can embark on, doing, Gainsway procedures or the P shot or whatever we can to kind of clear up the mess that's been already created by all the stuff that the patients have gone through. And in the past 5 years, I've probably taken care of at least, I would say, about 500 patients with erectile dysfunction, and this has been my approach. My approach is not, you come in for erectile dysfunction, I give you Gainswave, and you go on your merry way. That's not how it should work. I mean, I look at this as a major medical epidemic that is sweeping across the world for all the reasons that I just talked about. And so, I mean, as physicians, I think it's our duty to serve the public in a way that really helps, try and control the underlying problem as much as we can, before we get them to spend a ton of money on stuff that may or may not work. So our job is to optimize results by watching out for underlying problems and correcting them as much as I can. And so not only do you save the patients from poor sexual function, but also helps them in their um, overall health. A happy patient who's functioning well sexually is going to be physically active. I'm telling you, I've seen some amazing results with the patients that I have. So that's that, and I'm open to any questions. I haven't mentioned a medicine called PT-141, which is a medicine that has come through kind of recently. It's a peptide, and it does work wonders. So we can do another talk exclusively on PT-141 at some future point in time. So that's it, Tonya. Any questions? I'm ready.
Okay, so we have on the mic, Ike. I hope Ike B247. Did you have a question?
I guess, well, yeah, I have a couple of questions. I'm not, I didn't know what I was getting into when I came into the group, but I mean, so my personal journey for the last 6 months, 7 months has been, I've gone from 265 to, I'm 228 now, but I was due down to 220 a few weeks ago. But I've been, using YouTube to educate myself, which is, a double-edged sword. But I think I try to look closely. But what I'm looking at right now is how people are saying that how the physical activity is the most important thing to regulate hormone production, hormone equilibrium, I guess is probably a good word for it. And I guess my initial question was going to be something along the lines of, have there been any studies showing that sitting down too much had something to do with hormone production or prostate issues, things like this, not just simply inactivity, but the particular inactivity of sitting down, like in the workplace and whatnot.
Right. So one of the biggest epidemic that we have right now, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, it's called the sitting disease. I mean, that has created disaster in terms of poor blood flow across the body, contributes to all kinds of issues. I mean, it's just not a sexual issue, it's across the board for all kinds of wellness issues. People have to get off their butts and walk, or, so 15 minutes of sitting and 2 or 3 minutes of walking or stretching, whatever, but they need to get on their feet for at least a couple of minutes every 15 minutes or so. It's one of the hardest things to do, especially when your mind is so engrossed in the job at hand. But I do have a system in place, because I catch myself sitting forever because I'm dictating and typing out reports on my computer or sitting with patients for hours. So yeah, you said it right again. So one of the things that that I kind of forgot to mention is the fact that is sitting, like for example, bicycling. bicycling has a huge impact on the pudendal nerve. Pudendal nerve is one of the most important nerves that feeds the penis area. Okay, so when you're sitting in those narrow bicycle seats, whether it's a stationary bike or mountain bike or whatever, you are creating trauma to the pelvic area. I mean, not to the pelvic area, to the pudendal nerve and the blood vessels in the perineum. So that is a huge factor, and as long as you're sitting on a chair or on a seat that's kind of wide, that is supporting the ischial bones, and you're sitting on the ischial bones rather than putting your entire weight in the middle of your, in the perineal area. That is a disaster, and that's one of the huge contributors to erectile dysfunction. So, so when it comes to activity, so also there are some studies where low leg exercises actually contributes to increased blood flow to the pelvic area. So compared to upper body workout, so leg workout, whether it's I don't know, take your pick, walking or running or one of those things, any of those things, or weightlifting using your legs, whatever it is, providing exercises to the big muscles of the legs, I think will really help blood flow to the pelvic area. And that was actually taught to me by one of my patients. He said there's a big difference between upper body workout and lower body workout. So hopefully that will answer your question. So
Yeah,
the key here is, how do you prevent local trauma to the penis area? And second is, what's the downside of sitting down? Obviously, contributing to obesity and everything else that goes along with it. So what's the thing that people complain about the most is coronary artery disease. But then erectile dysfunction is angina of the penis. I mean, if you look at it that way,
right.
So there's a saying in our sexual medicine area saying, if a patient has heart disease, you got to look at their penile area, ask them about the sexual function. If somebody comes in with erectile dysfunction, it's your job to find out their risk for heart disease. Because vice versa, you can save them from, future heart attacks, get them to a cardiologist early, have them screened, take whatever precautions, correct their insulin resistance, correct their cholesterol levels, whatever. So it's an interplay. Cardiology is related to sexual medicine, and sexual medicine is related to cardiology in men, and that is so critical. So putting patients on testosterone, replacing it, because one of the things that I found in my practice, at least, most cardiologists are clueless about testosterone levels and its role in coronary artery disease. The reason that older folks with obesity have coronary artery disease is testosterone deficiency, again, along with everything else too. So testosterone should be considered as a cardiac medicine, in my opinion. It helps.
That makes
It
sense.
has so many positive effects, not only on the penile area as far as sexual function is concerned, but look at your muscle bulk. That's going to get better. Your ability to exercise is going to get better. Your cardiac health is going to improve. Your brain health is going to improve. There's so many positive effects of testosterone replacement. Again, I'm
I have
not
a
talking
question
about.
about testosterone
Yeah.
and exercise. At what point does exercise begin to help the production of testosterone? I mean, within the short term and the long term, like 1 week's worth of exercise versus
I
1 year's worth of
again,
exercise.
so that short term of exercise may increase blood flow, but the thing is, if somebody is a weekend warrior, it's better than doing nothing, right? It's better than doing nothing.
Right.
So there is going to be some improvement, but the point is, overall, the measurement of health is how do you reduce your visceral fat, because that is the culprit. How do you burn that visceral fat? And the number one way of burning that is a combination of exercise, optimizing hormone levels, and diet. It's a combination of all three. It's just not the exercise part. I mean, you can exercise. I mean, I've seen tons of patients who exercise like crazy, but then when you check their blood level, they have fatty liver, they have coronary artery disease, they have so many other issues that has not been corrected. Why? Because their hormone levels were off balance. Whether it's low testosterone, low thyroid hormone, low growth hormone, there's so many moving parts there. And so that has to be corrected. You just can't go with just one thing alone. At the same time, just correcting your diet and stuff like that without working out ain't going to do much either. So it's leading. So in my mind, this is part of a lifestyle. Oh, people want to live longer, and me and Tanya have been involved with this age reversal network for several years now, and so this comes up all the time. How do we prevent aging? How do we reverse aging? This is the fundamental. You got to have a lifestyle that is geared towards age reversal. I mean, age reversal is not like you snap a finger and you reverse your age. You got to fix anything and everything that's broken. And without a combination of exercise, diet, hormones, taking care of your basic medical needs, reducing your visceral fat, uh, is the first step. People can come to me who weigh 300 pounds and say, "I want age reversal." No way in hell is that going to happen. If the whole body's on fire, I can't do a damn thing about it. So we got to
How
take
long
that.
you got, Doc?
Yeah, it's a holistic approach.
Yeah.
You got to take the whole body approach. Like I said, it does take time for us to kind of walk through step by step by step, because listen, most physicians don't have the time of day to sit down and talk to a patient with these medical issues. You know what they tell them? Eat right, exercise, get out. That's it,
Yeah.
we're done.
Yeah. 15 minutes is up.
Yeah, that's it.
Give me the $200.
Yeah, whatever. So when I sit down with patients, it actually takes me a couple of hours, my initial evaluation, because the thing is this. When we are involved in a cash-based medical practice, we need to be assessed by our results, not by the crap that we do. I mean, anybody can do these procedures. It doesn't take a rocket scientist. But the question of when to do it, how to do it, how do you predict results? How do you manage issues? See, that's where the results come out. So if we want to get the best results, I expect the patients to work with me. If they expect me to do all the work, I mean, it ain't gonna happen. It's like taking care of your Ferrari. Yeah, you
Yeah,
come.
I see that's really medical culture on the lay side. People
Yeah.
just expect the drugs to fix it, or yeah, it's hard to do the work. Well, sacrifice. I don't think particularly Americans are very good at sacrifice, self or otherwise. But
But you know what?
so
When you give them the right motivation, I'm telling you, my patients will go through hell and high water and whatever I tell them. I mean, they're on the ball. I mean, it's that interaction, that relationship that we build is so critical, because guess what? You're going to pay me the big bucks because we want you to get results.
I
And if you
imagine
don't
your
contribute,
patients
I don't
come
want your
to you
money.
because they want to help themselves, though, I would imagine.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the reason.
And that's
So if
nice.
they're going to commit with big bucks, that's a motivation for them. Hey, listen, I don't want to push that money down the toilet. Let me put some effort into it.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a nice philosophy. It's a nice business deal for, from my point of view. But at the same time, if patients are not willing to work with me, I'm happy to let them go. Really. And I mean it. So that's how. But that's the reason, because I see the results. That's what keeps me going, and I keep discovering new things, and it's a lot of fun. I'm a cancer doc by profession. That's my core. My cancer care is at my DNA level. But when I deal with these kind of issues, it's not only rewarding, but it's a lot of fun too.
Let's talk about processed sugar. What are
Yeah,
your thoughts?
of course, no, hell
I'm on a
no.
crusade against processed sugar, and I've actually never heard anybody speak on processed sugars that relates to erectile dysfunction.
Okay, so the
Yeah,
same thing is there, right? So anything that is refined, so we talk about complex carbohydrates and plain sugar. Why plain sugar? Why am I against plain sugar? It's simple. It's insulin resistance. You're going to carve yourself into a hole with insulin resistance, leading to pre-diabetes, diabetes, vascular dysfunction, plaque buildup, and you're done. You start developing angina of the penis. The Ferrari stays in the garage, doesn't get out anywhere. That's it. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, I did keto, probably a more or less dirty keto for about 6 months, and that's when I lost the majority of my weight. And during much of that time, I mean, I took free days every once in a while, but for the most of that time, I didn't even touch any processed sugar. I didn't really even do any honey or even
Yeah,
uh,
fruits and stuff.
substitutes.
Yeah.
And that's fallen to the wayside. It was my birthday, and I had too much cake, but that's all right.
Yeah, so the thing that is sustainable is what I'm adopting personally, and that is intermittent fasting, and that seems to work just well for me. And I take off Saturday evening as a little break, like a cheat day, and I kind of cut loose a little bit. But for the most part, it's 16 hours of fasting and 8 hours of, again, even during those 8 hours, I limit my calorie to maybe less than 1,500.
I spent a lot of that time on 80 on 4 and 20. But
Okay. Okay.
so,
Well,
how do you feel about long fasts? What's your? That's
so
something
the
that's been
thing is,
interesting.
I have had folks who came in long fasting. I mean, I don't know how they do it, man. Holy cow! I've had patients who come in after a week of fasting. I'm telling you. I mean, my prolonged diet fasting is like for 5 days, but there are people who do water fasting. They do. See, my problem with that is, I think you're going to launch on a yo-yo program, which means you lose your fat, or lose your weight. I don't know how much of that is protein loss or fat loss or whatever, or water loss. And then, if you do not correct or take care of the underlying hormonal issues or whatever, then you're going to regain that weight back, because your thermostat has not been reset. You see, that's the issue. So the way we're going to change the thermostat is by kind of looking at the hormone levels, manipulating that, optimizing them, and the body will find its ideal weight, because it will tone down that thermostat. So so for example, when I started this whole procedure, I was 178 pounds, so I would go up a couple of pounds, down a couple of pounds, and my height is 5'10". So now, after everything that I've done, I'm 158 plus or minus 1 or 2 pounds every day,
Yeah,
based on
incredible,
diet.
by the way, Dr. Kumar. I remember when we first met, we had dinner in Palm Beach, and then
Yeah.
you were part of our age reversal. You're the doctor for us. It's incredible how much has changed for you. I'm so proud of you and so happy for you, actually.
Oh my God, it's been amazing. Again, from I'm 62 right now, but I feel like freaking 30. It's good. It's been a real awesome journey. And again, thanks to you, Tanya. I mean, you made all this happen. Again, otherwise I would have just been another dumbass doc in
Oh,
front.
stop. But also, you also know that your wife is
Yeah,
so I have pictures. I have a selfie of the both of us, the three of us. I
yeah,
need to go back into your office, which I will next week, to take a selfie of the three of us again, just to see
yeah.
how you guys have changed so much.
Yeah. No. So everything that I talk about stuff here, for the most part, I've practiced it or implemented it among me and my family. I'm talking about my wife, my kids, and my brothers and sisters and stuff like that. So nothing that I bring out has escaped me, because I want to see the results. So my philosophy is very simple. If something works, I just go ahead and get it done, and then I figure out why. So I don't dwell on why something works before I implement it. As long as it's safe, safety first. And if it works, fine, I'll adopt it. And then I'll figure out the why and the how and whatever. All the other questions will come in later. But I want to get results. And I want to make sure that other people have tried it, it's worked, and then I'll implement it, see if it's okay, see if it's worth the cost, see if it's worth the sacrifice, and jump in. And I'm living proof of that right now. So that's it, guys. But I really enjoyed getting back on track here, and thanks to Tanya for all the help and support. I really appreciate that.
Hey, I got to take off, Dr. Kumar. Thanks. Good
You're
talk.
welcome.
Thank you,
Yeah.
everybody. And again, Anna, thank you so much for being here, and thank you, Mike, for joining us. And Dr. Kumar, we'll be back next week at 1:30 p.m. for another
Yes.
episode of Short Health Spaces. So if you guys want to have any topic of men's health that you need to know more about, or even women's health, just let me know, and I'll ask Dr. Kumar, and we can create a program for it.
Awesome.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.